So that's why it's so important to me to do consumer outreach and education like this, so that people know to look for those third-party labs and make sure that they see that it's clean and that it is what it says it is. And then, so besides inhalation, there are topicals, which a lot of people like, but that's just localized.
I know topicals are flying off the shelves.
People do enjoy them, and I really enjoy them. I mean, I use cannabis-infused or hemp-infused coconut oil as my moisturizer of choice. It's really nice. I actually have a crock pot going at home right now.
Oh, you made it yourself?
I do, and then I also, because I just use so much of it, I go through at least a gallon a year as like a massage oil and a moisturizer. And then I also buy topicals and try different things, and then there's a topical that I sell that I really love, and it's a high-strength hemp topical. And so I really like those because they're really accessible to people who don't feel comfortable ingesting in any form. There's a lot of people out there, especially older folks, and they just don't know what to think about this whole hemp CBD cannabis thing.
Which they're probably the ones more reluctant to legalize or allow it into products in going forward. But I would say, do you think a lot of elderly people would find relief with CBD?
Most definitely, and a lot of them already do. Actually, it's becoming more and more popular because people are getting results, and so topicals are great. Before CBD was even on my radar, way back in the day, before people were even talking about CBD, I was doing raw juicing with THC acid and THC topicals for pain relief because I had I had a really horrible accident about 10 years ago in 2009, and it just left me with a lot of chronic pain. And so I was, working with medical cannabis every day, and I just wanted to try juicing, and I wanted to try topicals, and I got great results from it. But the only problem is that it's the juicing is really inconvenient in a lot of ways. You have to have access to raw product, and you have to keep it cold, or it'll get you really, really high.
When juicing, I'm assuming you're juicing like the leaves and sometimes like the baby buds. And I know that kind of texture of hemp plants are like really stringy.
They're fibrous. They're not.
Yeah,
as
they're
juicy.
very fibrous.
It's tough. It's not the easiest. And so what I like to do now is I make hemp pesto a lot of times, and that's kind of a favorite. It's like a staple in my fridge is hemp parsley.
Sounds like we should do like a whole food thing.
We
like
should.
Start people how to cook.
Oh my god, yeah. But back to topicals, one of the things I like about them is that they're accessible to people that don't want to consume. But the downside of topicals is that if you have, a systemic inflammation, if you're feeling inflamed in your whole body, topicals aren't really going to touch that because they only go skin deep. So they're only local relief. And so that's the con to topicals. And then speaking of edibles, consuming cannabinoids, phytocannabinoids, either in their raw form, like THC acid and CBD acid through juicing or pesto or smoothies, that's one way to get the acid forms, and those have a completely different benefit than the active forms like THC and CBD. THC acid is non-psychoactive, but it's an amazing anti-inflammatory.
Absolutely.
Whereas THC is psychoactive, and people do use it for pain relief. People use it for insomnia. For me, it doesn't work as well for sleep. It's really a lot more activating for me, and I start to get really in my head with most strains if it's high THC. And so, for me, CBD is my go-to, especially during the daytime. And I actually think they work really well together for recreational use as well. I really prefer to consume THC with CBD.
And I actually, if we could stay on that point, because there's like 1-to-1s and 2-to-1s. And the best thing I think that CBD has actually offered currently is that it has brought down, because it's mixed, bred CBD with THC, it's brought down the THC percentages to like where I like them.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that actually. There's a lot of folks who say, well, we used to smoke weed when I was your age, but now it's just too strong and it makes me paranoid. And really, for whatever reason, the cannabis strains in the last 20, 30 years were bred for super high THC, and that's really been hard on the majority of consumers. Most people don't have that high of a tolerance for just straight THC.
With high THC, and I guess we're probably getting off the subject, but high THC, doesn't it have an adverse effect on things like schizophrenia?
Oh, yeah, there actually is a bunch of research done into schizophrenia, and I would imagine there's going to be some research done into like anxiety disorders and bipolar disorders as well, where if someone has a predisposition towards schizophrenia, they usually are going to start showing signs of that imbalance in their like late teens, early 20s. And that's also usually when people start exploring cannabis and other mind-altering substances. And so if someone has a predisposition towards schizophrenia, consuming high THC products or flower during that time of life can increase their risk of developing schizophrenia, is what researchers are finding. However, what they're also finding is that if you combine CBD with the THC, that mitigates that risk significantly. And also, once they pass that threshold of maturity, once they're done with adolescence, I think it's like 21 for girls, 21 for girls, and like 24 for males.
25.
Yeah, then once they've passed that threshold of adolescence and they're into their full maturity, then they have not seen a correlation with consumption of THC and incidence of schizophrenia developing. So that's just something to keep in mind for the youth that have a family history of schizophrenia. Either stay away from THC or consume it with a liberal dose of CBD, not just an itsy bitsy, but a big dose of CBD.
What are your favorite mixtures of the THC and CBD strains currently?
Well, for smokables, I really like the 1-to-1, half and half. Like, for me, a nice sleeping blend is like 5-6% CBD, 5-6% THC, and it's just so sweet and mellow and mild, and that's a really nice nighttime smoke for me. As far as topicals, 1-to-1 is my favorite as well, for my own homemade use, right? Like what I can grow in my backyard. And then back to edibles, part of the reason why people like edibles is because they get long-lasting relief from it. But part of the reason why people don't like edibles is that they can get super high for way too long. Way too high, way too long. With
It's a downward spiral.
It's really intense for a lot of people. And so the reason why people can get so high, I mean, there's a number of reasons. One is that it takes almost an hour, give or take, depending on your system, to actually feel the THC take effect, right? Or the CBD or whatever it is that you're eating. It takes time for it to actually metabolize through your GI tract and get into your bloodstream.
Does CBD take longer than THC?
They take about the same amount of time to metabolize, is my understanding, my experience. It's just that, here's what happens. When you eat THC, for most people, it metabolizes through the liver and becomes 4 to 5 times more psychoactive. Whereas with CBD, when you eat CBD, by the time it metabolizes through the liver, you're only getting about 10% into your bloodstream.
Oh, wow.
And so,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, so honestly, like, if I'm going to consume an edible, it's going to be way high in CBD and just a little bit of THC, or no THC. I might just want a CBD edible. But if I do want something that's a little bit stony, I'm going to go with something that's got way more CBD than THC, because I know that a 1-to-1 is not really a 1-to-1 once it's metabolized and hits your bloodstream.
That's actually good to know. If you guys personally would like to see more of Lauren, then hit the like on this video and definitely subscribe to us so you can get all the other updates. And we'll probably be seeing you very soon. And she'll have we're getting her YouTube up and running. It'll be running. So it's coming.
All about
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, see you guys next time.